from a spring day here in Irving, Texas. And today we'll be going into Ezekiel 35. Now, I don't know how far we're going to get. I don't suspect too far. Because what we're going to do today mostly is be setting the stage for what follows here in this chapter. And there will be other scriptures we'll be considering as well as we go through this chapter. So, what I'm going to do for right now, it's a fairly brief chapter. I'm going to just take it from the top and read it all the way through, okay? Help us get some context here. And this is about a judgment on Mount Seir. And we're going to see who this concerns as we go through this. I'm going to leave you in suspense for just a moment, but I think most of y'all already know who this is. A little correction within the family, if you will. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came to me. It's Jeremiah speaking, the prophet, not Jeremiah, Ezekiel. The prophet Ezekiel speaking. Moreover, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Mount Seir, and prophesy against it. And say unto it, Thus says Adonai Yahweh, Behold, O Mount Seir, I am against you, and I will stretch out my hand against you, and I will make you desolate, and I will lay your cities waste, and I will make you desolate, and then you shall know that I am Yahweh. Because you have had an ancient hatred and have shed blood. Now, this ancient hatred is going to be key here. Because you have had an ancient hatred and have shed blood of the children of Israel by the power of the sword at the time of their calamity, when their iniquity came to an end. Therefore, as I live, says Adonai Yahweh, I will prepare you for blood, and blood shall pursue you. Since you have not hated blood, therefore blood shall pursue you. Thus I will make Mount Seir most desolate, and I will cut it off from the one who leaves and the one who returns. And I will fill its mountains with the slain, on your hills and in your valleys, and all your ravines. Those who are slain by the sword shall fall. I will make you perpetually desolate, and your cities will be uninhabited. And then you will know that I am Yahweh. Oh, it's here. It's then they're going to figure this out. Because you have said, these two nations and these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess them, although Yahweh was there. Therefore, as I live, says Adonai Yahweh, I will do according to your anger and according to the envy in which you showed your hatred against them. And I will make myself known amongst them when I judge you. And you shall know that I am Yahweh, which have heard all your blasphemies which you have spoken against the mountains of Israel, saying, They're desolate, and they're given to us to consume. Thus with your mouth, which you have boasted against me and multiplied your words against me, I have heard them. Thus is Adonai Yahweh. The whole earth will rejoice when I make you desolate. As you rejoice because the inheritance of the house of Israel was desolate, so I will do to you, and you shall be desolate on Mount Seir, as well as all of Edom, all of it. And they shall know that I am Yahweh. Okay, so at the end, we got a definition of who this means. It's talking about Edom, the house of Esau, if you will. Because this is made clear, other than just this one little verse right here at the end. Because let's just turn to Genesis. Keep your place here in Ezekiel 35, okay? Now let's turn to Genesis 36. Let's back up to Genesis 36 a bit. Genesis 36. And this is about the family of Esau, his own household. Let's read verses 8 and 9. So Esau dwelt in Mount Seir, and Esau is Edom. This is the genealogy of Esau, the father of the Edomites in Mount Seir. Let's drop down to verse 43. Let's see, here we go. Chief Magdiel, chief Aram, these were the chiefs of Edom according to their places in the land of their possession, and Esau is the father of the Edomites. I'm sorry, I missed verse 1. Let me squeeze that in. Now this is the genealogy of Esau, who is Edom. So we're told 3 times in this chapter alone. Who Esau is. Esau is Edom. And it's in perfect agreement with what we just read out of Ezekiel 35. And as we go through this study and other scriptures, to go through this chapter, we're going to see that, well, Esau and his progeny were not very nice people. And it's getting to a point in this prophecy that Yahweh's had enough of these people. And they're getting a little bit... They're not exactly getting a spanking. They're getting something else much worse. Amongst other things, as we go through now, we may not get to all of it today. But what we will see is before we're done with this, Esau will be judged by his own words. Both the man and his progeny. That is, a house collectively. As we just read. As we just read in Ezekiel 35. And we read that in verse, I didn't make note of that. Sorry. They will be judged by that according... It was where we read about his man, verse 13. With your mouth you have boasted against me and multiplied your words against me. I have heard them. Yahweh heard them all. And as he done to Israel, verse 13, so he will do to them. In verse 11, we'll also see for us is said and done. It says, I will do according to the anger and according to the envy which you showed hatred against them. I will make myself judge you. So this is an ancient hatred. He speaks of an ancient hatred. Now what ancient hatred could that possibly be? Because this goes all the way back to the beginning, this ancient hatred that Esau, the house of Esau has for the house of Israel, that Edom has for Israel, or the house of Jacob, if you will. Let us back up to the beginning, where these 2 kids are born. Yes, David.
Do you want to back up even further than that? Do you have Genesis 12, verses 2 through 5?
Well, let's go further than that. Let's go to Genesis 12. We'll go even further than that. Thank you, David. We will. No, I did not, but we will. 2 through 5?
Yeah. And we got to set the stage of, how Yahweh sees those that are against Israel.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
This makes it a little complicated about where you're going with Edom versus.
Yeah, okay. Let's try it. Okay, now Yahweh said it, Genesis 12, let's just read it from the top. Now, Yahweh said unto Abram, get out of your country and from your family and from your father's house to a land that I will show you, and I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. Seems like didn't we just read that a while ago? Then we bless those who. Can I have a fan on up here, please? Somebody, I got somebody buzzing me up here. Thank you, Raquel. Yeah. And I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. Well, we'll see that brought to fruition. Now, why was this not done before? Cursing him before he cursed him. All this time from here to the fulfillment of this prophecy. Anyone want to take a guess? How about Yahweh's patience, a desire for repentance? He gave him an opportunity to do it, and he never did. And that means both the man and all his progeny, individually and collectively, when I say Esau. And so does Scripture. Yes, David?
And, the complication comes in when he was talking to Abraham, but Esau and Jacob are from the seed of Abraham.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it's not just, if you're a part of Abraham, if you're a part of the tribes, anybody that comes against you will be cursed. If you're in the tribes,
You're judged even more so, yeah.
and you go against a brethren or those that are in the tribe, then you can consider yourself to be outside of the tribes, and the curses will apply to you in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to point that out, the breakdown of the blessings that bless you, the curses that curse you. You're not excluded if you are considering yourself to be in the tribe.
I mean, you're not considered within the family anymore.
Right.
You're cut off.
You cut yourself off.
And you cut yourself off when you do that.
Exactly. So don't go against Yahweh.
That's right. So bless him that bless you, curse him that curses you, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So Abram departed as Yahweh had spoken to him, and Lot went with him, Lot his nephew. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. And Abram took Sarai, his wife, and Lot, his brother's son, or his nephew, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people whom they had acquired in Haran. They departed to go to the land of Canaan, so they came to the land of Canaan.
Now, when you go into the dispute from the beginning, it's always been about who will inherit the land between Israel
Mm-hmm.
and Edom.
So let's fast forward a little bit. To the birth of these boys. Now we got a little intermission here. In the meantime, Abraham and Sarah got a little impatient, waiting for the child of this promise. Gives him the Hagar, gives Hagar the maidservant unto Abram. Oh, they produce a child, but Yahweh makes it clear. His name is Ishmael, and Yahweh makes it plain that no. I didn't mean Ishmael. I meant from your wife Sarai. You got to remember, at this point, Abraham's well over 90 by this time. That's all addressed in chapter 18. And then, eventually, in chapter 21, we see the birth of the son, as Isaac. And Abraham is quite old at this time. And they continue their journey. And now, it's time for a bride for Isaac. That's in chapter 24. Abraham, even older version of Abraham, sends his servant, Abimelech, to go see about a bride for Isaac. And this man is quite faithful. He delivers. Yes.
What man is quite faithful?
Oh, well, okay. All right, let's
About
just,
Abraham?
No, the servant.
yeah, about Abraham's servant, yes.
Oh, Lot.
No, the servant.
Oh, the servant.
Abraham's servant, yes. So Abraham, okay, no, that's all right. I'll answer the question. I don't mind it at all. We'll read. We find it. Let's start in verse 2 of Genesis 24. Well, let's just see. Now Abraham was old and well advanced in his age, and Yahweh had blessed Abraham in all things. Verse 2. So Abraham said to the oldest servant of his house, who had ruled over all that he had, he said, "Please put your hand under my thigh, and I will make you swear by Yahweh, the mighty one of heaven, the mighty one of the earth, that you will not take a wife from my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, whom I dwell," as we're going to see somebody else does later in this story, in this account. Somebody else will, but he will not do this for either. But you will go to my country and to my family, and take a wife for my son Isaac. But the servant said to him, "Well, perhaps the woman will not be willing to follow me back to this land. Must I take your son back from the land from which you came?" And Abraham said to him, "Beware that you do not take my son back there." The Yahweh of heaven, the mighty one of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my family, who spoke to me and swore to me, saying, "To your descendants I will give this land. And he will send his angel before you. And there you shall take a wife from my son there." So Abraham was very confident, and he believed the words that Yahweh had spoken to him earlier, and he's reminding his servant Abimelech about the encounter and the promise he'd received from Yahweh. So it is from here that the faith of the servant will be tested. And we dropped, remaining in Genesis 24. I didn't have this in my notes, but let's see. We will pick up. So verse 10. In verse 10, the servant leaves, makes his journey. Takes off on his journey. And let's see, verse 12. Then he said, "Oh Yahweh of my..." Verse 11. At verse 10, he leaves on his journey. Verse 11. He made his camels kneel down outside of the city by a well of water at the evening time, when women go out to draw the water. And he said, this is Abraham's servant now, Abimelech. He said, "O Yahweh Adonai of my master Abraham, please give me success this day, and show me kindness to my master Abraham. For behold, I stand here by the well of the water, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw. Now, let it be that the young woman to whom I say, 'Please let down your pitcher so that I may drink,' and she says, 'Drink, and I will also give your camels a drink.' Let her be the one you have appointed for your servant Isaac." Now he's referring to also his master's son, Abraham, as Isaac, because Isaac has since proven his faithfulness as well. "And by this I know that you have shown kindness to my master." Notice he says to my master and his son, not to me. Is that a lack of faith, or is that humility? I dare say it's humility. It's a faithful humility. As it happened, as before he had hardly finished speaking, and behold, Rebekah, who was born of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, came out with her pitcher on her shoulder. And now the young woman was very beautiful to behold, a virgin, and no man had ever known her. And she went down and filled her pitcher, and she came up. The servant ran down to meet her and said, "Please let me drink a little water from your pitcher." And she said, "Please drink." Then she quickly let her pitcher down to her hand and gave him a drink. And when she had finished giving him a drink, she also said, "I will draw water for your camels as well, until they have finished drinking." And answer her no more. I mean, look at the faith he had to do this. Yes, Larry.
Well, and this is interesting because it's not
really brought out here, but there were 10 camels. And here it says, and she finished giving drink to him, and she said in verse 19, also will draw for your camels until they have finished drinking. A camel, according to these scriptures in the reference notes here, one camel can hold 150 liters of water, and there were 10 camels. So an average bucket back then would have been 5 liters. And so that meant that she would have had to go back and forth to the well to do one camel 30 times. For 10 camels, that would have been 300 trips with a 5-liter bucket.
Well, I'm sure he most likely had the camels pulled a little closer to make it so she wouldn't have to make 30 trips, but here, guys, let's get a little closer to the well, okay?
So it really would signify not only was she beautiful, but she was a
Very strong. She had more manhood than a lot of the guys I work with at work. Slinging water like that. I can't get guys at work to lift a simple pallet, empty pallet for me sometimes. Good night. I mean, just a simple wooden pallet. Guys don't, a lot too many guys I know at work don't have the manhood to do that. Here she is. She's got more manhood than any of them. Anyone else? Yes.
I get the meaning of what y'all are trying to say. I think we should take care of being that it's we shouldn't add anything or take anything from it. We shouldn't just let our imaginations come
Right.
out. But just like I do understand.
Okay.
She had the
So she nonetheless she watered all the camels.
righteousness.
Mm-hmm. Camels had finished drinking. Let's see, here we go. Verse 22, as it was when the camels had finished drinking, as the man took a golden nose ring and weighing half a shekel, 2 bracelets for him, and weighing 10 shekels of gold. And he said, whose daughter are you? Tell me, please, and is there room in your father's house for us to lodge? And she said, I'm the daughter of Bethuel, Milcah's son, whom she bore to Nahor. Moreover, she said to him, we both have straw and enough feed to lodge. So they had enough for both the men, for his entourage and the camels. Then the man bowed down his head and worshipped Yahweh. He said, blessed be Yahweh of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his mercy and his truth toward my master. And as for me, being on the way, Yahweh led me to the house of my master's brethren. So the young woman ran and told her mother all these things. So Abraham's servant remained faithful from the time he gave him the mission to its completion. Because remember, as the head servant, and the mission failed, what would have become of Abraham's household? Who would the heir have been? Eliar of Damascus, which is who we're talking about right here in this passage. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
My name's George.
What, Troy?
George.
George.
Yeah. I just wanted. Okay, so you asked me. You asked, right? What would have happened if the servant failed? And you said who?
Eliezer of Damascus,
Eliezer.
the head servant.
What would have happened if the servant failed?
He would have received. He stood in to cash in on it all.
But do you think that God's will would have been done regardless, some way, somehow?
Well, he probably feared. Well, undoubtedly, he feared Yahweh to the extent that he wouldn't do that.
Right.
He was a faithful man.
Right.
He learned well from Abraham and Isaac as well.
And I think
Remember, he was a faithful servant.
where we're going here, or I'm assuming where you're going, Curtis, is Edom and Ezekiel 35 were actually being cursed because they were rude to Israel. They were angry and they ridiculed Israel. If we take that all the way back, Abraham got his wife from Mesopotamia. He told his servants to get Isaac's wife from Mesopotamia. And then Jacob went and got his wife from the same area. But Edom, Esau, got his wife from the Canaanites. And so that was the split. And so the track is, if Yahweh wanted them to always get their wives from their brethren. Everybody did that except for Esau. And then we see why there's a division, and that may have caused a problem. But this is all opinion. Just trying to figure it out.
Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. So he gets Rebecca. Rebecca comes back home with him. She marries Isaac, and they have one of their own kids, a man known as Jacob. And eventually his name is changed by Yahweh to Israel. And Isaac gets his bride. And now, here's where the story starts to get interesting. We will find it over in Genesis 25, as we flip over there. Verse 20. Now Isaac was 40 years old when Genesis 20. 25:20. Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah as his wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian of Paddan Aram, and the sister of Laban the Syrian. Now Isaac pleaded with Yahweh for his wife because she was barren, and Yahweh had granted his plea, and Rebekah his wife conceived. Remember, today, right now, we're going to spend most of today just kind of setting the stage for what's to come. But there's still plenty more to come here. Now Isaac pleaded with, but the children, verse 22. Isaac pleaded with Yahweh for his wife. His wife was barren, and Yahweh granted his plea. Rebekah, his wife, conceived. But the children struggled together from within her. They're still in the womb, and they're fighting already. We got a sibling rivalry already. No more than they're conceived. I know the women know what it's like to have a baby move around and kick and punch and all that in their womb. I don't. But Rebecca knows there's something above and beyond unusual about this. But the children struggle, verse 22, but the children struggled together within her. And she said, if all's well, why am I like this? So she went to inquire of Yahweh. Now remember, now pay attention to the language. She didn't get her husband or anyone else or the men of the company, the family, to do it for her. She goes straight to Yahweh herself. She's a woman. And what do we get? He said, well, he said, go ask your husband, go ask whoever, and I'll intercede through them. No. Right here, verse 20. Yahweh said unto her. He answered the woman directly. He answered her. This goes to show the impartiality of Yahweh. He doesn't. If you're faithful, if you keep the commandments, if you do well, will you not be received? Well, this speaks of the faithfulness of Rebekah. Very faithful household we have here so far, isn't it? They got their flaws, but they're still elsewise very faithful, right? They got their fleshly struggles, but here. And verse 23, and Yahweh said unto her, verse 23, 2 nations are in your womb. The 2 peoples will be separated from your body. One will be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. So the younger one's going to be the boss, so to speak. He will serve the younger. So when her days were fulfilled, for her to give birth, there were indeed there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, and he was like a hairy garment all over. So they called him Esau. Afterward, his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, so his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 60 years old when she bore them. So, I mean, even at birth, they're still struggling. Esau struggles to get out first, and little Jacob reaches out with his hand and tries to pull him back in. No, not you. Come back here. me first. But didn't work out that way. So the boys grew. Verse 27, Esau was a skilled hunter, a man of the field. But Jacob was a mild man. He dwelt in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he ate of his game. But Rebekah loved Jacob. Jacob, the mama's boy, if you will. Esau seemed to be what we would today call the manly one. Well, it says right here, Isaac loved his game. He loved the deer and anything else he went out and killed. Tell me, who else was a mighty hunter in Scripture? Nimrod. Yes, we're starting to see a few dots connect here already now, aren't we? Nimrod was also a mighty hunter. So it would seem, could it possibly be that the spirit of Nimrod would rule in one of these boys, especially the hunter one? Before the end of the story, now we won't get there today, but before the study is done, though, it'll most likely have to be next time. Oh yes, we'll see that come full circle. Okay, here we go. Let's keep reading here in Genesis 25. Now Jacob cooked a stew, and Esau came forth from the field, and he was weary. He was plumb tuckered. He was tired. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me some of that red stew, because I'm hungry. Therefore, his name was called Edom. Here we go with that red being Edom again. Jacob being a good guy said, sure, here, have a bowl. No. Jacob said, sell me your birthright of this day. And Esau says, look, I'm about to die. I'm starving. I'm about to die. So what's his birthright to me? Jacob said, swear to me as of this day. Okay, so he swore to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and the stew of lentils. And he ate and he drank and arose and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. Why would be anyone? We would really think Esau hating his birthright, despising it over this event? Well, he agreed to sell it for what? What was it worth to him? Wendy.
It's just like he just took it for granted. He just disregarded it like he was entitled, and it just didn't mean anything to him.
I'm the firstborn. Everything's mine anyway. He probably had
I'm Dad's favorite.
I'm Daddy's favorite. And when he blesses us, I'm going to get it anyway.
Right.
I'm Daddy's favorite. Nah. I like the way you said that. I really do like the way you said that. Yes.
I think kind of the more important question is, why did Jacob want him to sell the birthright? What did Jacob see in the birthright that he wanted from Esau?
That's a good question, David. And he had a greater understanding and appreciation of what that was than Esau obviously did. Undoubtedly, he had some type of understanding. Now, how much of what, I can't say. But we may unfold into that as well as this study progresses. Yes, Larry.
So when we read in verse 26, it's talking about famine, and Isaac went to Abimelech. In verse 2, and Yahweh appeared to him and said, do not go down to Egypt. And there's different things going on. And in verse 4 it says, and I will increase your seed like the stars of the heavens, and I will give your seed all these lands. And all the nations of the earth shall bless them in your seed, because Abraham listened to my voice, and to heed my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my law, or my Torah. So this was literally 430 years before Mount Sinai. So the law was already in place. The Torah was already in place. But what the people of the world would bless themselves with about this increase in the seed would be like the stars in the heavens, and they would and all nations would bless themselves from it. So this was the hereditary inheritance from Abraham to Isaac and to Jacob. And yet, here Esau,
As the firstborn, it stood all to be his.
it all stood to be his, and through his progeny, all earth would be blessed, and the Messiah would come through that lineage. He thought so little of it that he was willing to sell it off for a bowl of red stew.
Too. And that kings would come forth from, because we were told about that earlier in the brief. That kings would come from him. Instead, we're going to see what he gets, and it's not going to amount to too much. Jacob had an understanding and appreciation of that. Because he believed it because he learned, because remember, how did Isaac learn of this? He learned it from his mom and his daddy, Isaac and Rebekah. Or from Jacob, and then they learned that in turn from their grandson, and who in turn learned it from Abraham.
But it's interesting that Jacob didn't have that understanding that his first son Esau would be the one. It was his wife
Who understood that, and he learned that from his mama.
That's right, and it was the wife who Yahweh blessed by letting him know the older one would be the servant to the younger.
Now, undoubtedly, my guess would be that she probably did tell her husband, but it's not recorded. That conversation is not recorded. So thanks, Larry, for covering the next step of my notes.
Sorry, I didn't know your notes.
Anyone else before we go any further?
Going back to Ezekiel 35, verse 10.
Okay. Hold your place here. We're going back to.
Oh, you don't have to move back there. But
Oh.
and also to her comment of, well, I'm daddy's favorite. I think probably in his mind, he didn't really think that his words would be literal. I don't know what would be the correct word for it. Like, he didn't think that his words were literal or would have so much effect and impact.
I can hardly hear you. I'm sorry. Can you speak up?
Yeah, like I don't think he took his words literally, because he was just in a moment and he was just starving. So I don't think he actually like stopped to think that, oh, my words are literal and they're gonna have an impact. And he probably just thought like his brother was messing around with him or something, because when you in Ezekiel, it kind of looks like Esau still thought those lands in the first verse, right, was his, because there it says, these two nations, these two lands are mine, and we shall possess them. So I don't really think it clicked, like, what he was
Evidently, he
saying.
never understood.
Yeah.
No. May I? Please. To address that, I think that there's a place in scripture where it talks about Esau found no place of repentance. I think it's in the New Testament.
Yes.
I think that Esau's manners wasn't one that was like. I think the fact that he was adamant about his birthright, like you said, showed his rebellion.
He had a very powerful spirit of rebellion in him.
He had a, how do I put it? I don't think Esau was guiltless.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay.
Can I add to that?
Go ahead.
So, I was just looking it up, just now on Ezekiel 35, 7, where it talks about, thus I will make Mount Seir most desolate. I was just looking it up on what Mount Seir is, where it's located, and it's located between the Dead Sea and the Gulf of Aqaba.
Yes, it is.
And we also see that the Jordan River is there. So the correlation that I made was in Joshua 4.
Okay, you're getting a little ahead, but
23.
Yeah,
Let's talk about the rivers.
let's pump the brakes.
we are getting a little ahead here. But yeah, okay.
All right, so Curtis, going
Yes,
back
Dave.
to that comment about Esau's perception of the birthright versus the blessing. If we go to Genesis 27:36, in his mind, he saw those two things as two different, I guess, blessings or two different inheritance, because he definitely states, after he comes back and he finds out that Jacob has received the blessing, he says this, and he said, is not he rightly named Jacob? For he have supplanted me these two
yes.
times.
That's
He's
where we're
taken
going
away my
next.
great-" All right, go ahead. You do it.
So fast forwarding a little bit, yes, we're next. That's our next step. Genesis 27. 36. Excuse me. Genesis 36.
27.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll start at 34. Genesis 36, verse 34. 37. I don't know why I said. 27:34. Okay, so Isaac is getting old. He's ready to best. Let's just read, start in verse 1. Genesis 27, verse 1. Now, when it came to pass, when Isaac was old, and his eyes were so dim, I'm picking it up in verse 1. His eyes were so old dim that he could not see. And he called Esau, his older son, and said to him, my son. And he said, here I am. And he said, now behold, I am old, and I do not know the day of my death. Now please, take your weapons, your quiver, and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game. Who else do we know is armed with a quiver and a bow in Scripture? A very famous, he's
Before or after?
well after.
Well after?
Toward the end of the book. Can we say Revelation 6?
Yeah, there's quiver and bow and fire in the sky.
That's right. Thank you, David. Kind of reminds you of that, doesn't it? Well, there's this connection. There seems to be this strange connection all the way through. Oh, I don't know. Please take your weapons, your quiver, and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me. And make me savory food, such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat it, that my soul may bless you before I die. Now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to Esau, his son. And Esau went into the field to hunt game and to bring it. Now Rebekah spoke to her son, saying, indeed, I've heard your father speak to Esau, your brother, saying, now bring me game and make savory food for me, that I may eat it and bless you in the presence of Yahweh before my death. So he evidently knew not only did he know how to hunt it, but he also knew how to cut it and grill it. Therefore, my son, obey my voice, according to what I command you. Now go to the flock and bring 2 choice kids of the goats, and I'll make savory food for your father, such as he loves. Now I find it interesting here that she tells him to bring the goats. Yes, Wendy.
Just so much deception.
So much deception.
Yeah, the soup, where we're going. I have to just. There's so much deception.
Well,
going on.
in the final judgment, who's told to go to the left?
The goats.
The goats. Get out of here.
Yeah.
For what it's worth. But we might touch on that later, but let's see. Now go to the flock and bring for me 2 choice kids of the goats, and I will make savory food for them, your father, such as he loves. And you shall take it to your father, that he may eat it, and may bless you before his death. Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, but Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I'm a smooth-skinned man. Perhaps my father will feel me and deem me to be a deceiver, to deceive him. And I shall bring a curse on myself and not a blessing. But his mama said to him, Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice. Now go get them. Go get them for me. So he went and got them and brought them to his mother and made his savory food for him, just as his father had loved. Rebekah took the choice clothes of her elder son Esau, which were with her in the house, and she put them on Jacob, her younger son. She put the skins of the goats. Now she put the skins of the goats on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. So she takes this big coat, if you will, and puts it on him, made out of goat's hair. She gave savory food to the bread which she had prepared, and to the hand of her son Jacob. So he went to his father and said, "My father," goes today, says, "Here," and he said, "My father," and he said, "Here I am." "Well, and who are you, my son?" And Jacob says, "Well, I'm Esau. I'm your firstborn. I've done just exactly what you said. Now please arise, sit, and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me." Yeah, it was a game, all right. But Isaac said to his son, "Well, how did you find it so quickly, my son?" And he said, "Because Yahweh, your Elohim, has brought it unto me." As we've read so far, is this anything that Esau would say? And if we go on any further, it's not going to sound like anything he would say. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Well, please come near that I may feel you, my son, whether or not you're really my son Esau or not." So Jacob went near to his father, and he felt him. And he said, "The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He was hairy and rough like Esau, but he didn't sound right. So Jacob went near his father, felt him. It's verse 23. But he did not recognize him. Remember back at the top of the chapter, he couldn't see too well? Verse 23, he did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother's. So he blessed him. And then he says to him, "Are you really my son Esau?" He says, "I am." He said, "Bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's game, that my soul will bless you." So he brought it near him, and he ate. He brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Now come down here and kiss me, my son." Remember, he hasn't received the blessing yet. He evidently, Isaac's not quite sure yet. So far, so good, but he's still not completely convinced. He came near him, and he kissed him, and he smelled of his clothing. Then he smelled him, took a smell of that Esau's clothes. And now, so what's the significance here? He recognized him by a smell. He recognized him as Esau of all things by a smell. Goats don't smell very nice. Goats stink. They stink. Because he fools him. By a smell, he recognized him as Esau. Let's go here and read. "Surely the smell of my son. The smell of my son. It's like the smell of a field which Yahweh has blessed. Therefore, may I give you of the dew of heaven, of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine, and let people serve you." Just like Yahweh told Rebekah, let people serve you, and nations bow down unto you. And be the master over your brethren. So he's the master. He's not the firstborn. The firstborn of Esau is now the servant of this guy here, Jacob. "And let your mother's sons bow down unto you." This is fulfilled in the story of the account of Joseph, when all the other 11 kids bow down to Joseph, in the fulfillment of all his dreams. "And cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be those who bless you." Just like we read in Genesis 12. Now, as it happened, as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau came in from his hunting. And he also made savory food and brought it to his father, and he said, Said Father, "Here, Daddy, arise and eat of your son's gain, that your soul may bless me." And his father Isaac said, "Well, who are you?" He said, "Well, I'm your son, your firstborn, Esau." Then Isaac trembled exceedingly. So he fooled him all the way around. We know this. He tricked him. Then Isaac trembled exceedingly and said, "Who? But where's this one who hunted game and brought it to me? And I ate it all. I ate all of it before you came, and I blessed him." Now here's his chance to change his mind. And he doesn't do it. "And indeed he shall be blessed." He made it sure out of his own mouth, whoever that was. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and he said to him, oh, bless me, my father." He said, "Well, but your brother came with deceit, and he took away your blessing." And Esau said to him, "Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. Jacob means supplanter, by the way. "Is he not rightly named Jacob? For he has supplanted me these 2 times. First he took away my birthright. Now he's blaming Jacob for all his problems. He supplanted me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and now look, now he's taken away my blessing. Don't you have any blessing from me?" Yeah, he's here now. Instead of seeing this as an opportunity to repent of his own sins and his own ways, he blames Jacob for all his problems. Because Jacob didn't take his blessing, did it? No. Sold it to him. He bought it from him. He made a voluntary exchange. Yes, David. David, then Wendy.
Yeah, that goes back to my point of why would Esau see these 2 things independently or separately? When you think about blessings and throughout Old Testament, it was thought that the father blessing the son was giving the blessing, and Yahweh would actually make those things happen. So it's in a
It's
sense,
the blessing and the birthright. They are 2 different.
Yeah, it's a blessing from Yahweh. And once your father bless you, Yahweh will allow the blessings to happen. Esau saw the birthright as I was born first, so everything is a right to me. So that doesn't really matter. The blessings from Yahweh matter more.
So are you saying that Esau was mistaken?
No, I'm just saying in his mind, he saw those 2 separate things. That's why he may have given up his birthright easily.
Then that would justify him for a mistake. Could it be that based on how he is, like when he says here, he says he tricked me, or he took my birthright or so, without taking any kind of like responsibility.
Right.
He took no responsibility for his own actions.
Right. Would that mean that, he just felt so entitled, wrongfully entitled?
Pretty much.
That's what I'm saying. The birthright. Yeah.
Pretty much.
He saw less value in the birthright because he thought that I'm the oldest, so no matter if I give it to him anyway, I still get it. Because when my father blesses me, Yahweh is going to give me those blessings, which he valued more.
Or do you think it's because?
Okay, let's go to Wendy first.
I think though too, by the deception of the goat skin and all of that, that was just ensuring. That was, y'all called insurance. That, okay, now I'm getting it. I've got it, and now I'm getting it.
We got to remember that was his mama's idea too.
Yeah.
Now, had they just simply waited on Yahweh, Yahweh could have made it happen. Okay, first, hold on. Okay, first Raquel, then Larry.
Yeah, I was just gonna highlight, like, when it's Jacob's turn, in Jacob 40, when he was giving his last words to his sons, Genesis 49, the firstborn is Reuben, but he forfeited that because of, like sleeping with his dad's, wife. And then Simeon and Levi, I guess, also they were skipped that. So the firstborn kind of went to Judah, where the kingship, the scepter shall not depart from Judah, right? So the kingship or Messiah came from the tribe of Judah. But when you go to Joseph, Joseph had all of like the blessings, you know,
Yeah.
fruitful bow. Yeah, and as we know, right, like he had a double.
That's
portion.
because Joseph was the firstborn of the wife from whom he bargained for in the first place.
But Yahweh blessed Joseph.
He said, okay, Larry.
Yeah, I like simple things, okay? And so, as a matter of law, whether if you're talking about our nation or if you're talking about what happened in Israel, there is a binding contract,
Mhm.
okay? And it was a situation between Esau and Jacob that Esau despised his birthright, didn't count it of any value. And when Jacob saw that, he was willing to offer a bowl of stew for that birthright.
Mhm.
And so they actually made a contractual
Obligation.
obligation and did that. Now, that's like if I went to David and said, David, I really like your car. And here's the cash, I'm gonna give you the cash for it right now, and I'll come back and pick it up. Well, what happened with Esau and, Jacob at his father's death was the transaction of passing that title.
Mhm.
Okay?
Right.
That's what happened, because there was a legal obligation, there was a legal contract made between Esau and Jacob. Jacob received the rightful heirship of being the firstborn, and Esau literally just gave it away, okay? And he was foolish, he shouldn't have done that, but that was on him. But we know that this rivalry continued on.
We're not going to cover it today, but it's going to go on well on.
Yeah, for 400 years thereafter, when Israel was coming to the promised land, all they wanted to do is go through there,
Mhm.
and they refused. So, that went on and on and on. But
Okay, good. Okay, anyone else? Okay, so Esau,
One moment, please.
okay,
Just one quick brief
All
thing
right.
I wanted to say, because I was.
Okay.
Hey, Wendy, about the deceiving, with.
can you
with-
speak up, please? Speak
Sure,
up.
I think she can hear me, but I'm trying. Okay.
Okay.
About, about deceiving. Wendy had mentioned something about, Rebecca, saying, or being deceptive, right? And if you notice in the reading, it says that, she said, put the blame on me. So I'm thinking like, there is a righteous, if you want to call it that, although deception in of itself is iniquity,
Yeah.
but there is a righteous deception,
Well-
and I can,
Abraham did it twice with his.
Abraham, yes.
Sarah.
so you know.
Biden said she was a
Okay, so
sister.
that's
She
going
must
to.
have she must have seen some things.
Okay, that's another discussion, but let's move on here, please. Where were we? Verse 37. Then Isaac said to Esau, well, indeed, I have made him your master. Esau cried, singing the blues, have you reserved no blessing for me? Then Isaac answered Esau, said, indeed, I have made him your master. And indeed, I've given to him as servants. Oh, and all his brethren I have given to him as his servants, with grain and wine, which I have sustained him. Now what shall I do for you now, my son? And Esau said to his father, oh, don't you have only one blessing, Daddy? Oh, come on, please bless me so. And he lifted up his voice and starts crying. Oh, he starts crying. And finally, Isaac, his father, answers, says, okay. Behold, your dwelling shall be of the fatness of earth. Some translations render seemingly more as away from the fatness or the goodness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. And when it comes to pass, and you become restless, that you shall break his yoke from your neck. Verse 41. So Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing which his father had blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand, and then I will kill my brother Jacob. Remember, he said it in his heart. This is not something he just said out loud in a fit of anger, right? Okay, that's right, Wendy. It's from his heart. What did Joshua teach us about all the things that come from the heart? That's what defiles you. All that was in his heart. Verse 40, here's where the story kind of gets interesting. And the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, surely your brother Esau comforts himself by intending to kill you. That's where he's seeking comfort. Instead of repentance and a recovery of something by Yahweh. Instead of turning to Yahweh, he comforts himself by intending to kill you. Now remember, he said it in his heart. So how did Rebekah know? How could she have known? It's not recorded specifically here, but it could have been she was, for a lack of a better phrase, divinely warned. That's kind of what we're left with, isn't it? The proverbial little bird told her.
So then she was doing God's will in a manner.
Wendy.
I was just reading this version, verse 41, and Esau hated Yaakov because of the blessing which his father blessed him, and Esau said in his heart, let the days of mourning for my father be at hand, and I will slay my brother Yaakov. And the words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rivkah.
Mm-hmm.
And she sent and called Yaakov, her younger son, and said to him, behold, your brother Esau, as touching you, does comfort himself, purposing to kill you. So maybe she had the divine revelation.
Well, undoubtedly she had something. Because,
I think it might be more than a little bird, but I mean.
well, the proverbial little bird,
Right,
but
right.
yes. No, it wasn't divine. Undoubtedly, it's some type of divine warning.
Yeah, so, I mean, we can speculate, but you got
Right.
one of two choices. You got a messenger told her,
Mhm.
or he started saying it to the servants, and they heard and they told her. So either way,
Somebody
she
told
got a
her.
wind of it,
Yeah.
is more the most important.
That's the important part. You got
So,
yes,
you know,
Larry.
I was gonna just say, it more than likely, he spouted off to somebody, I'm gonna get him, okay?
He could have.
And that's probably, because there's not a divine intervention that we can read here in the scriptures, it just says that the words were
Told her. But he said it in his heart.
He said it in his heart, but apparently at some point else, the words were spoken to Rebekah, okay? And so apparently, not only did he say it in his heart, but at some point he must have mentioned it. to
Might
somebody.
have. Wendy?
And just his actions, just the anger and the hatred,
Mm-hmm.
just the things that he did with his body language from that point.
Could be.
And she knew Cain and Abel too,
These are her children, so.
probably.
Wait,
Cain and
Yeah.
Abel.
Okay.
She probably
Cain
knew the
and
story of
Abel.
Cain and Abel.
she knew them?
And she was
She knew
gonna,
the story.
she was
Because she
gonna
also
take.
knows her own children.
Okay.
This is like
Well,
going
Okay,
down-
whoa.
Yeah.
One at a time, please.
This is going down the-
Get your hand up first, then I'll call you, okay? We don't need a dozen cross conversations. Wendy?
Esau lost his birthright. That was
Yes, he lost it. It was gone.
So he was gonna ensure that he got it back, and he was just gonna kill him and just take it. 'Cause
Well, that was his intention, to kill him and get it back. Now it all comes back to me. He's dead. That's his motive. Okay, so Jacob runs away from home, and he goes exactly where his mama tells him to, and he's taught a little lesson about deceit because of his wages being changed 10 times, and he makes a deal with Laban concerning the marrying his daughter Rachel. Well, he does a little bait and switch, gives him Leah first, then he gets Rachel. And then all the grief and heartache that follow over that. And after all that time, that's the last time when his mama warned him, he left. That was the last time he saw his mama. She was dead and gone before he came back. He never saw her again. But let's touch a little bit more about what this. Let's see. No, let's see. So we know that the ancient hatred, speaking of in verse 35. Let's see what else it says about the ancient hatred. Let's back up. Let's turn, please, to Ezekiel 25, verse 12. Let's just see what it says about that. Ezekiel 25, verse 12. Not 35, 25. Ezekiel 25, verse 12. This is another proclamation against Esau, against Edom. Thus says Yahweh, because of what Edom did against the house of Judah by taking advantage, and has greatly offended by avenging itself on them. Therefore, thus says Yahweh, I will stretch out my hand against Esau, and I will cut off the beast from it, and I will make it desolate from Teman. Dedan shall also fall by the sword. Now that has a meaning, this Dedan and Teman, but we're going to have to talk about that next time. Now, because this will have everything to do with Esau's new home, where he inherits. And I will lay my vengeance on Esau by the hand of my people Israel, that they may do in Edom according to my anger and according to my fury, that they shall know my vengeance, says Yahweh. Let's try Psalm 137, please. Okay, yes, Wendy?
Vengeance is Yahweh's.
Yes,
And
it is.
He doesn't like when we try to get
No,
revenge.
he doesn't like it when we get our own vengeance.
Right.
He doesn't think too much of that. Psalm 137. Psalm 137. Let's go to verse 7. Remember, O Yahweh, against the sons of Edom, the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it to its very foundation, or destroy it, tear it down to its very foundation. So this hatred didn't just stop with the sibling rivalry between two boys. It went on into the nations that came after them and all their various tribes and their various clans. Now, for the sake of time, we'll discuss what the prophecy concerning Dedan and Edom and Teman is, but I will give you a hint. That too, their very beginnings are found in the book of Genesis, and we'll go through them next time. And I'll give you a hint. It has to do with the territory of Esau's new home, where it started and how it expanded, what expanded into. While Mount Seir was a specific location, Seir, we will also see that Seir is a figurative reference to the entire house of Esau, not necessarily just the mountain itself, but to all the territory of Esau. Okay, David?
As far as the location, isn't that southeast of Jerusalem?
Yes, it is. It's to the southeast of Jerusalem, yes. Now, an exact location has been disputed, and I'll continue to try to follow up on that, but I'm glad you brought that up. Because I found among scholarly research there's a little disagreement on the exact location of it. Some place it up in just barely inside the Jordanian border, some place it down in Saudi Arabia. Matters not. The house of Esau will spread into both modern day countries.
That's why we don't know where it is.
So, does it really matter, the exact location? I said, does it matter then? No. Because if it's a reference to the house of Esau and all his house, the exact location of the mount is not really that relevant. Yes, Raquel.
I was just gonna say, I know we talked about Esau, but, losing his birthright. I mean, we lost our birthright in the fall, right? Like with Adam and Eve, right? And how, that's why Yeshua had to die and redeem us. That's why we're bought with a price.
Well, we were given dominion over the earth, and then we gave our dominion. We gave our
Not deceived with the
and
food.
through deception.
With food.
Well, we gave the dominion that mankind gave us dominion of, mankind gave us dominion over to the adversary, over to the snake. Yes, George.
I wouldn't word it as such like losing our birthright at that time, because as you see, there was the heritage of the servants of the Lord, right? The birthright. You know where after the fall, in Jeremiah, where it talks about, you know, I know the thought that I think towards you, plans of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end.
Okay.
It talks about no weapons formed against you shall prosper. That all comes with the birthright, right? That all
Okay.
comes with that inheritance, right? So I don't think we lost the birthright. There is a fall. I'm trying to understand what.
Okay, well, we can discuss that
Yeah,
after,
separate, yeah, it's a separate
over food. We're out of time right now.
Yeah.
So we'll close here. We can discuss that more over some eating back yonder. We'll close here. We'll have, next week we'll have, let's see, Larry up with a Bible study next week. He'll pick up where David left off in Matthew, most likely. And he'll also lead us in some closing songs.
Hallelujah.